Surprise, we have a second meeting. I know, you guys thought we were done. We are all out of sorts because it's a Tuesday and we normally meet on Monday, and we had a special budget meeting in advance, and the person who normally seconds our motions isn't here because he is out on his anniversary evening, so bear with us as we get through this meeting. We will begin our Tuesday, September 3rd regular city council meeting with an invocation followed by a salute to the flag delivered by John Wagner. Please stand.
Dear Lord, please provide us with the grace and guidance from your hand to allow us to help influence and drive the positive change for our community. Please provide wisdom and the ability to tell right from wrong to all of our elected officials, city leaders, and staff as we strive to make our community better. Please ensure that our community maintains the level of passion for our community and helping drive this improvement within our community. Within your name and with your wisdom and love we pray. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is called to order. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Golding?
Here.
Councilmember Horn?
Here.
Councilmember Jansen? Councilmember Meza?
Here.
Councilmember Sutton?
Here.
Councilmember Wagner?
Here.
Mayor Hoffner?
Here, moving on to approval of minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes from the regular city council meeting held on August 19th, 2024.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion from council? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item B.
I move that we approve the minutes from the city council workshop held on August 28th, 2024.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion from council? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Announcements. Ms. Goldie.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to let everyone in the audience know that tomorrow night there will be a meeting, a Beaches Watch meeting, to learn about the local and state ballot measures, and we will have our city manager Mike Stefopoulos, who will be talking about the Jacks Beach charter amendments. Atlantic Beach City Manager Bill Killingsworth will be talking about the Atlantic Beach charter amendments, and Supervisor of Elections Jerry Holland will be talking about the state amendments. So it'll be tomorrow night, 7 o'clock at the Beaches Branch Library. I hope, Mr. Meza, because it was closed today for some issues. Also want to mention that I had the opportunity to attend the Beaches Memorial Walk that the mayor participated in this past Saturday, and it was sponsored by City of Jacks Beach, Project Opioid Jacks, and the Florida Poison Control Centers, and they gave out Narcan. They also spotlighted, I guess you might say, for lack of a better word, all the lives that have been lost in our community and the importance of overdose awareness. So it was a really, really good event, and I hope that people will consider attending the event next year, because the more Narcan that we can get out into the community, hopefully the more lives that can be saved. And then also, in light of tonight's proclamation about suicide awareness, I just wanted to take a moment to remember Corporal Andy Lavender, who passed away to suicide 5 years ago, and exactly 5 years and 1 month ago. Passed away on August 3rd, 2019. Here Tomorrow was started in 2021 after Joe Kenny's son also committed suicide. I just want to remind everyone that it's okay to not be okay, and I do appreciate the mayor for doing this proclamation, because that's another tragic issue in our community, and there are so many lives that we need to be saving, and I hope that with the help of great organizations like Here Tomorrow, more lives can be saved. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was, wanted to let everybody know that the Florida League of Cities president asked me to chair the Municipal Operations Policy Committee, and so I've accepted that appointment and will be the acting chair for the coming legislative session. Thank you.
Mr. Sutton.
Just congratulations to Beam here in our community. A few of us had the opportunity to attend their annual Beam Ball at TPC, and I think it was a great event and great turnout. I think they were headed toward a record for the charity from that night, so good for them, and just a recognition of all the great work they do for those in our community in need.
Mr. Horn.
I will be short and sweet. I just want to thank the Jacksonville Beach Police Department for all their efforts without going too far into specifics. Had a chance to speak with them several times today in regards to something, and I greatly appreciate their hard work and efforts, and so do other members of the community. I'll just leave it at that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Horn. Yeah, nothing like a vague announcement from council. We have a couple city-sponsored events coming up. We have, and I'm going to encourage you, if you're planning on going to any of these events, check the Facebook page for any weather updates, because this week is looking a little dicey, but if all goes as planned, we have Seawalk sessions tomorrow out in the Latham Plaza area, and the food truck is an ice cream truck, which I think that is dinner, so I'm good with that. And then we have Moonlight Movie on Friday that is Top Gun Maverick. So that is always a good time, and if the weather's well, we will have the return of Mayor's Movie Trivia, and that's always total chaos, which is great. And then in the, along the lines of charity events coming up, the Beaches Council on Aging, which you know, familiarly, so you know what I'm trying to say. And the Styler Ride is having their singer-songwriter event on Thursday night, so that should be a great event to raise money for that organization as well. Any other announcements? Thank you, council. Moving on to courtesy of the Florida visitors. We have one card, Tim Ager. Sorry, tell me how to pronounce that.
This is the best I've ever heard.
Oh,
4 letters, but it's super difficult. My name is Tim Ager from 2386 Snowy Egret Drive, and I come down here to talk about the special event policy. So a couple months back, I had a charity beach Olympics where we were playing cornhole, running relay races, football toss, playing patty cake. And 2 hours into it, a police officer came down here and just said, "You need to shut down immediately. I'm not leaving until all the tents are gone." And I was like, "What did I do?" He's like, "You didn't fill out a special permit." Now I've been doing this for the 3 years. I've had 200-person Baywatch beach parties. The cops have come, they said everything's cool, no problem. So it seems like there's a new policy in place, and so fine, shut down my event, it's okay. So I go down to the permits office, I'm like, "Hey, can I see what it says?" And I'll read it to you, what they gave me. "The special event shall mean any pre-planned activity, parade, or gathering of group of persons, animals, or vehicles, or combination thereof, having a common purpose to be held at facility, rental area, or beach proper, or in the ocean." And how I read this is basically, if you want to do anything at all ever, we can shut it down if it's pre-planned. And so it's too vague, and the people at the permitting office understand that as well. And I said, "Okay, cool, how do we work to fix this?" And they said, "City council approves it." And so I'm okay, I'm an events guy. I've thrown 400 events since I've been here in 3 years. I've been doing it my whole life. I've thrown 500-person events for 4-star generals. I worked at the fertilizer plant. It's very my second nature, throwing events and safety and all the logistics and everything. And it seems like this document was not written by somebody with as much experience as I have. So I'm happy to work with whoever writes this and redo it. And that's basically why I'm here. And I don't know if it's them and they're just trying to just get away, go to city council, or if it's you guys, I don't know who it is. So whoever that person is, I would love to work with them. And another problem I had, just to highlight, is I went down, I was like, I wanted to have a DJ in front of Surfer Bar, And I just want to have street performance, people going from Surfer to the Rec, Hop here, wherever, you know, and I just want to entertain people. I want to make Jacksonville fun. Like, I'm a fun guy, I do a lot of events, I was at a fashion show this weekend, and they're like, sorry, we need 90 days in advance to approve this. So I had the police chief, the fire marshal, and the permitting people in the office for 30 minutes, which we could have BS for 27 and approved the event in 3 minutes, but they're like, sorry. Special permit policy, you can't do anything about it, go to city council. So I think it's unreasonable, I'd love to help fix it, and I just wanted to bring that up as a guy that throws events every, twice a week. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ager. That is the only speaker card, so we'll move on to consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. The next item is the proclamation for suicide prevention, and we are, thank you, Ms. Golding, for teeing that up. I know that this was born out of a discussion at the Florida League of Cities, where suicide prevention and mental health is a particular focus of the outgoing president, I believe it was. So we reached out to Here Tomorrow, which is a local organization that does tremendous work in this space, to give us some information to put this proclamation together. And I'm going to go ahead and read the comments. I don't think anybody is here from Here Tomorrow, but we'll deliver this proclamation to them. Would you like to deliver it, Ms. Golding? Okay, thank you. Not to put you on the spot. Whereas suicide is a national epidemic and is in the top 10 leading causes of death for over 49,000 American lives annually, and whereas suicide was declared a national emergency in child mental health by the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Children's Hospital Association, and the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry for being the second leading cause of death for children, adolescents, and young adults, and whereas many people struggling with suicidal thoughts feel desperately alone, as suicide remains a topic discussed in many circles, rarely discussed in many circles of our society, and whereas according to the Centers for Disease Control, Duval County remains a high-risk county for suicides, and whereas Here Tomorrow is a 501c3 whose mission is to transform lives by building a community where suicide prevention is accessible without barriers, and whereas Here Tomorrow's vision is that all community members who are at risk for suicide can access mental health support services and live full, meaningful lives. And whereas since opening in 2021, Here Tomorrow has provided no cost, no wait mental health support to more than 2,000 friends, which means hopeless or suicidal individuals, and family, which refers to loved ones. Support from Here Tomorrow is accessible and affordable for an entire year through in-person, virtual, and phone follow-ups. Funded therapy with 93 collaborating providers, and weekly support groups fighting the stigma of mental health. And whereas Here Tomorrow is located at 910 3rd Street in Neptune Beach and has served at least 87 Jacksonville Beach residents feeling hopeless or suicidal. Now, therefore, be it resolved that by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Jacksonville Beach, I, Christine Hoffman, hereby support suicide prevention and proclaim September 2024 as Suicide Prevention Month in the city of Jacksonville Beach, Florida, and call upon each citizen to consider preventing suicide through awareness, conversation, and mental health support. Thank you. Moving on to city manager, new business, item A, Teachers Energy.
Good evening, Council. My name is Wayne Hughes, Beach City Energy and Utility Superintendent. Here to get the approve or disapprove bid number 242305, the Trade Mineral Service for Cooker in the streets.
And a motion?
I move that we award bid number 2324-06, reconditioning painted surfaces on pad-mounted transformers and switchgears to Worth Contracting, Inc.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Warren.
Is that what, I thought you meant?
The first bid is for the crane service, Cooker crane
Oh, I'm
service.
sorry.
Yeah, he mentioned, we're,
Go back to the pad-mounted transformers. I'm
So
sorry.
the pad mount reconditioning of the transformers is Worth Contracting, their local contractor here in Jacksonville.
All right, and we do have a motion and a second on item 1. Any discussion or questions for Mr. Hughes from council? We predicted this was going to be a funny meeting. You guys, I disclaimed that in the very beginning. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Horn. I'm sorry. Councilmember Golding.
Yes.
Councilmember Horn.
Yes.
Councilmember Mesa.
Yes.
Councilmember Sutton.
Yes.
Councilmember Wagner.
Yes.
Mayor Hoffman.
Yes, motion carries. Motion on number 2.
I moved we delegate authority to the city manager to approve and execute all subsequent bid extensions through the maximum bid term.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember.
So I do have a question on the vendor that we're awarding it to. Was there a competitive bid process?
Yes, I went through, I think, 3 different bidders, bid on this bid.
Thank you.
Any, Mr. Sutton?
Just a question, both on this and a couple other items here that we're going to discuss. For Mr. Stefopoulos, difference between a bid extension and a, there's another term here, renewal. Could you explain that? And is there any substantive difference? And I'm just reading some language from one of the other items.
I'm going to ask our CFO to come up and answer that, but I don't believe it's material.
So the way that we have been phrasing it, a bid extension means all the terms of the original response stay in place. I think our city attorney can probably weigh in a little bit more, but when they bid for 3 sequential years, and so if we exercise the extension, it's exactly what they bid.
At the same cost.
At what they bid, and so in their response, they may have had an escalator in there, and they cannot change it.
Versus a renewal?
So a renewal, I might lean on our city attorney to clarify that.
So legally, I don't think there's anything different. If the terms are defined in a specific bid, there could be a difference. Otherwise, I think they're synonymous. And in a general sense, we put a bid out on the street so that anyone who wants to bid on it has all the information at the time, including length of time, potential renewals, so that any company knows the factors. So what I'm trying to say is everyone's aware of how long it's going to be for, and that we retain the authority for a certain number of extensions to ensure a level playing field. Whether it's called renewal or an extension, I don't think that legally matters.
Well, the only reason I bring that up is because an extension, I would think an extension would be the exact same terms that had been originally proposed. A renewal can oftentimes be negotiated at a higher rate or different time or something to that effect. So that's the reason I asked the question.
So they would be limited to what they put in their bid response for the length of the term, including all renewals when they put their bid in, or all extensions. There's no reason why they could change things up because of one word. Now, as Ms. Gossett already said, they might put in their original bid that we'd like this price increase in year 4, year 5, but then we know that before we award it. So we're aware of that, and we decide whether or not our committee and then city council, whether or not to accept that bid, if it's the best bid. So there's no way for someone to get around our policies and procedures if it's a renewal versus an extension.
Thank you.
Mr. Horn.
I did not see a specific increase or contractual process where this would increase or has the ability to increase in subsequent terms. Is that correct? Or did I miss something in here? Was that another one on that subject?
I believe it's 3 years across the board, same price.
Fixed price.
Fixed price.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Horn.
Yes.
Councilmember Mesa.
Yes.
Councilmember Sutton.
Yes.
Councilmember Wagner.
Yes.
Councilmember Golding.
Yes.
Mayor Hoffman.
Yes, motion carries. Now, crane rental services.
Bid 23-2405, the crane rental services for Coker Industries contract. They'll be doing all of our crane lifting, heavy lifting, all that.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes, and a motion?
I move that we award bid number 2324-05 for crane rental services to Coker Industrial Contractors, Inc.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions from council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, roll call.
You know, that's going to be recorded.
It's all of us today, but don't worry. Mr. Wagner?
So I just want to validate this, on this particular one, was there a competitive bid process?
Yes, sir.
There wasn't?
Yes, sir.
But there was only one respondent.
Okay.
And we sent out several different vendors, only Coker responded.
Yeah, I appreciate that clarification. So the end result was we ended up with one proposal.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mesa?
Actually came to my mind. I think I asked this question, I don't know if it was to Regis Energy or Public Works last time. I think it was crane rental. But obviously, there's been incidents with cranes all over the place. Just want to make sure, this is a good...
This is a good legit company. They've been around for 30, 40 years.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Horn?
So page 11, number 10, cancellation, non-renewal, adverse change, rate increase notice. The city should be given at least a 9-day notice of cancellation, non-renewal, adverse change, or increase in rates if applicable. Do we have, I was trying to figure out, and again, this was the one that we updated the agenda with this afternoon. I reviewed this as quickly as I could, but do we have the right to step out of this if suddenly there's a rate increase that is not in our interests? It just says we're going to be given notice, 90-day notice of a rate increase. So do we have the ability to accept/reject said rate increase if we don't find it agreeable?
Let me take this one. I don't have the full bid in front of me, I'm trying to look at it right now, but in a general sense, and if any staff hears me misspeak factually, please chime in.
And even the term, should be, should be.
It's for a certain period of time. Here, I think it was 1 year. So we always retain the right, any extensions that are authorized by city council, those are solely at the discretion of the city. So we could choose not to utilize those extensions. So we would have to go through the contract for the initial term of 1 year. But after that, if the city feels that, whether it's a performance or perhaps an issue of price, if we don't want to execute one of those renewals, it's our discretion, we could stop at that point. Now, some of these have a second motion for you all to delegate the authority to the city manager to approve and execute all subsequent bid extensions. I don't want to speak for him, so if he wants to chime in, but I know if he's hearing anything from staff that's controversial or worrisome, I know he would almost certainly come back to you all, despite the fact that you had already delegated authority to him, if it was anything out of the routine or out of the ordinary. So I don't know if that answers your question, Mr. Sutton. Not Mr. Sutton, Mr. Horn.
Yeah, that's right.
I was close.
It's a little ambiguous, but if the rate is the rate, if this is the rate that is listed and you guys are comfortable with this rate for the first year, the way that was worded, it gave me some pause.
You finished?
Yes.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's good. Any other questions or comments from council? Mr. Wagner?
Just to clarify, because I may have lost track. So right now, we're discussing item B, number 1.
B1.
Seeing no other lights, Madam Clerk? City Manager Stefopoulos?
Yeah, along the lines of what you were saying, Councilor Horn, just wanted to point out for the benefit of all council that we reserve the right to terminate the contract with a 30-day notice for what is effectively any reason that we want, including for convenience. So if we get to the end of a year and they say they're not happy with the terms and conditions of the price that they're charging, and they want more money, and we say we're not prepared to pay more money, we can terminate at that point, at the 1 year mark, instead of doing a renewal. Or more importantly, if it's middle of the term, we also have the ability to terminate it mid-term as well with 30 days notice.
Seeing no other lights, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Meza,
Yes.
Councilmember Sutton,
Yes.
Councilmember Wagner,
Yes.
Councilmember Golding,
Yes.
Councilmember Horn,
Yes.
Mayor Hoffman.
Yes, motion carries. Next, item 2.
I move that we delegate authority to the city manager to approve and execute all subsequent bid extensions through the maximum bid term.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I think we've covered this one pretty much. Mr. Wagner? Your turn.
So I'd like to propose a amendment to the motion where we would take this particular item and have a discussion at a upcoming council briefing to discuss the concept around a bid request that does not result in a competitive bid, and with consideration that in that case, that contract would have to come back at the end of its initially requested term. So, I think we have an obligation, I probably shouldn't say that.
So can you state it in the form of an amendment, which should be brief and amend the
I can't
original
speak
motion?
briefly.
I'm going to ask you to try.
So I'd like to amend this motion that, so we can consider it post-discussion at a council briefing.
There's a motion to amend. Mr. City Attorney, let me let you jump in here.
I don't want to I hesitate to jump in because there's a motion and not a second, but I think what you're getting at, you might just be inclined to deny this, vote against this motion.
Okay.
I'm not sure, based on, I don't see how to practically accomplish the amendment. And again, I apologize for jumping in.
No,
Just a second on me.
The spirit is I want us to end up in a robust dialogue from council around this topic. I think it's an important topic and it shows that we're trying to manage the city's finances. So if that's what you recommend, then we can do that. And if that doesn't work out, then I'll figure something else out.
So just in terms of the motion on the floor, there's been a motion to amend. Is there a second? Seeing none, the amendment fails. So we'll go back to the original motion. But Mr. Wagner's desire to hold a robust discussion around the bidding process is acknowledged. Mr. Horn?
I was just going to say, yeah, actually, that's, so to clarify Councilor Wagner's concern, so that what you're saying is that if we were to deny the extension, the city manager approval through, then if we deny that, does that mean we have a 1 year contract and then we will come back and have to rebid this next year?
No, it just means you haven't delegated authority to the city manager, so when the first potential renewal of this contract is up, we have to come before the city council for a vote.
Okay.
Yeah. And to provide clarification, because the terms of the contracts vary, so we've had 1, 2, 1, 3, and 5. It isn't to stop the initial term of the contract. We still need to continue the work to be done. But if it wasn't in a competitive bid process, rather than allow it to perpetuate for 6, 8, 10 years, we'd say, okay, there's a time in which it needs to come back to council and the competitive bid process probably needs to occur. That's the basic concept that I'm trying to advance. I think it's, demonstrating good fiscal management.
Mr. City Attorney?
Yes, Mr. Wagner, I just wanted to clarify. It was a competitive bid process, but I think your concern is there was only one respondent, yes.
Yeah.
But I just don't want the public to think it was not competitively bid.
Yeah,
It was competitively bid. Your concern was because there was only one respondent. You'd like to take a closer look.
Well, and I tried to
Situations like this.
resulted in a competitive bid process because we've also had one where everybody that bid on it was accepted. So I think we ended up with 7 vendors. And so clearly there wasn't a differentiation on price, or we would not have ended up with all 7. So my phraseology may be off, but my intent is that if we did not end up in a place where there were more than one person bidding and us ending up in the most competitive situation. Does that make sense?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify that it was competitively bid.
I understand.
Yeah, so in the interest of staying on the agenda, let me keep moving down the board. Mr. Mesa.
Mr. Breakfart, oh my God. Mr. Allen, you said it was competitive, but there was only one bid that came in?
Correct.
Okay, the question I have is was there a reason why there was one, or is it that the other vendors weren't interested because it was money?
So in the past, generally, we get 2 or 3 bidders on this type of service all the time. I will tell you that over my tenure here, I've had several where we've only gotten one bid. However, we still require that service, and in fact, this service is shared. I mean, Public Works also uses the same service through this crane services, so it does happen.
But it's not because we're making it difficult, it's just maybe they're backed up and they don't have the...
And I'll give you a really good example, like tree trimming services, for example. Well, all these local companies bid, but, 3 of them are owned by Aspen. And so they don't bid, that only one of them bids, because they own almost everything. It's very sensitive, stuff like that happens.
Okay.
But it's not very common, it just happens here. Thank you, Casey.
Mr. Sutton?
So I just wanted to acknowledge what Mr. Wagner had asked, because I do think it's important that we have that discussion and delineate between, because the last one we talked about, number A and this number B, they're really different. And the language in the contract is different, and even to the level of using should versus shall and different things like that. So I do think that needs to occur in situations where there's the opportunity for the price to be increased that isn't necessarily defined, then I think we have a responsibility to manage that. So I agree with needing to have that discussion, and that would be the issue that I would have in approving this.
Any other discussion from council? So the motion on the floor is to delegate authority to the city manager to approve and execute all subsequent bid extensions through the maximum bid term. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Sutton?
No.
Councilmember Wagner?
No.
Councilmember Golding?
Yes.
Councilmember Horn?
Yes.
Councilmember Meza?
No.
Mayor Hoffman?
Yes. Tie vote, motion fails. All right. We will look for that crane extension to come up again next year. Item C. All requirements. Sorry, solar.
Alan Putnam, Director of Patriot Energy. I'm here to bring this back to you. Back in December of 2022, you approved the purchase of 5 additional megawatts of solar energy at a price not to exceed $36 per megawatt. Since that time in the solar industry, prices for many, many reasons have increased drastically. The vendor came back to us this last few months and asked for $43. I know it says 40 here, they've actually increased it to 43. At that time, us and some other cities have decided we're going to exit this project, and so we're coming back for your approval or to get out of the project.
Thank you. And a motion, please?
I move that we approve cancellation of the All Requirements Project Solar Phase 2 Participation Agreement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Mesa?
You said, you're saying it went from $40.05 to 43?
So it's $33.65 average per megawatt, and now it's actually up to 43 in the last month. So, I can buy, gas today is $2.12 of MMBtu. I can produce gas produce a megawatt at $22. So $40 is obviously almost double what we pay for a regular, average megawatt of power that we produce in our other plants.
Okay.
Any other questions? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Wagner?
Yes.
Councilmember Golding?
Yes.
Councilmember Horn?
Yes.
Councilmember Meza?
Yes.
Councilmember Sutton?
Yes.
Mayor Hoffman?
Yes, motion carries. Mr. Putnam, will you please thank Mr. Hughes for his presentations? He raced out of here. He did stand at the podium much longer than he probably expected to, so I appreciate that. All right, the final item on the agenda is item D, who is Ms. Latham.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. At the end of May, we issued a request for proposal for property and workers' compensation insurance, and we did receive 3 responses. In July, due to the complexity of our insurance, we hired consultant Cyber to review and compare the proposals and to give our evaluation committee their recommendations. Based on their recommendation and each committee member's individual evaluation, Florida League of Cities was selected for both property and workers' compensation coverage. I am asking for you to award the RFP for various property and workers' compensation insurance to the Florida League of Cities and to delegate authority to the city manager to approve and execute all subsequent renewals through the maximum contract period.
Thank you, Ms. Latham, and a motion, please.
I move that we award the entirety of RFP number 06-2324 for various property casualty and workers' compensation insurance coverages to Florida League of Cities.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Golding?
Yes.
Councilmember Horn?
Yes.
Councilmember Mesa?
Yes.
Councilmember Sutton?
No.
Councilmember Wagner?
Yes.
Mayor Hoffman?
Yes, motion carries. Second item, a motion?
I move that we delegate authority to the city manager to approve and execute all subsequent renewals through the maximum contract period.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Mesa?
Just a quick question for our city manager. Mr. Mike, if this is approved, and obviously next year you approve this without visiting us, if there's a change or anything, is this a phone call that we'll get, or you will bring it up to council?
I've got the bid pulled up right now, and I'm trying to find out what it says with regards to the pricing from year to year. Ms. Latham, I'm not sure if you're aware of what happens to the pricing when we go to the next term of the contract.
Actually, no, but thankfully I have the consultant from Cyber, George Erickson, here to answer any additional questions.
Good evening. Yes, to the best of my knowledge, the proposal that was received in response to the RFP was for a one-year term, and they did not address any subsequent rates beyond the first year of the contract. So,
And can you also express for council the maximum number of years that the agreement could go?
I do not know if the RFP specifically asked for a specific number of years in it. I don't believe that that there is anything in the contract that, or the proposals or any of it that would go beyond 1 year. I don't think that it's very difficult to go beyond 1 year because the rates in the market changes so fast that, and especially with property insurance, all it takes is one hurricane and the rates that they quote you today are no good next year. So almost all vendors are reluctant to go beyond 12 months with their rates at this time.
Okay, so my next question is, if we approve this and this goes through and they come back next year with same rate, you don't need to contact us, but if they come back at a higher rate, is this something that needs to be addressed to us?
I would want to come back to council if we're going to be paying more, especially with the fact that it's apparently a one-year term.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. For council's benefit, I just pulled up the relevant section of the RFP. Contract period is defined as October 1, 2024 to October 1, 2025, with an option to continue for 4 additional one-year renewal periods, subject to renewal premium terms to be mutually agreed upon. So there would have to be some sort of negotiation between the parties on price after the first year.
Mr. Sutton?
And I would expect that, should we approve item number 2, that would delegate authority to negotiate that to the city manager. So I would have a problem with that.
How long has it been since we've put this out to bid?
The last one was 2019, is that correct?
I think so.
Yeah, I think there was a 2019 bid, and that's when the current program was put in place. But that was, I think, a one-year term as well, that has been renewed every year.
So what prompted us to go out to bid this time?
We just decided that it was time after I believe we were done with our contract renewals, the extensions and renewals, so we needed to. It was time to go back through and also go through the process and get the best rate, things like that.
Okay. Any other questions from council? I do want to take the opportunity to publicly acknowledge the incumbent insurer's excellent handling of our cyber issue earlier this year. They provided, I can't see Karen's face, I think she's probably nodding, exemplary service to us in a really challenging time. So I think we definitely got our money's worth on that line of coverage. So appreciate their efforts and their excellent service to us. That's the only time I've been directly involved in seeing what our insurer has done for us. So I really appreciate that and wanted to say that publicly. The motion is to delegate authority to the city manager to approve and execute all subsequent renewals through the maximum contract period. Mr. Stefopoulos.
One of the things I would like to throw out to council for consideration is that we don't want to end up in a cycle where every year we are doing a competitive process and going back out on the street, because there will be a point where insurance companies don't want to deal with us if we do this every year. And if you've seen the size of the submission packets that need to come in, they're also quite substantive. One of the things I would throw out there for your consideration is that perhaps number 2 be revised as a motion that says delegate authority to the city manager to negotiate a renewal to be brought back to city council for consideration. So that way, if we are able to negotiate something we feel is reasonable, it can be put back in front of you for consideration of a formal approval without necessarily just saying we're going to go back out on the street, especially if there's a negotiation process that needs to take place with the vendor. So I think you could amend this motion to give me the authority to negotiate that amendment, but not to execute it. But it needs to be brought back to council for your formal action, especially with it being a one-year term.
Mr. Mason?
I would make a motion to amend number 2, to delegate authority to the city manager to approve and negotiate all subsequent renewals through the maximum contract period. Is that remove approve?
Negotiate. I mean, you can make whatever motion you
I'm making sure. So delegate authority to city manager to negotiate. Is that what? Renewals through the maximum contract period.
Just the negotiation.
Okay, so there's a motion to change the wording to negotiate a renewal. Is there a second for that amendment? Okay, seeing no second, Mr. Horn? Amendment fails. Mr. Horn?
Sorry, so if we do not, in this scenario, we do not approve you to, do not give you the authority to approve any renewals, but the renewals just come back through us each year, or we are limiting, because we're not limiting ourselves.
The renewals would come back through city council, but you're authorizing me and staff to sit down with the vendor and negotiate what that extension would look like for your consideration.
Correct, so again, so if this fails, then you will continue, but it just does not make us a 1 year, it just makes it still has the extension, the renewal contract period through whatever is in contraction. The certain number is 5 years?
Doesn't mean that we have to go to bid. in other words.
Correct, yeah, so it doesn't mean we don't have to go to bid. Okay. Thank you, that's what I wanted.
That's what I'm trying to avoid, is having to go out to bid year after year. I want to make sure that if they're providing a good service and product for us, that we can continue to do so for the maximum term that was in the advertisement for the RFP.
But again, by us, if we do not pass this, you still have the authority to continue to negotiate.
If we don't pass number 2 as presented?
Correct. We still have, yeah, I mean, it's still coming. You're still.
Mr. City Attorney?
I think it's an inherent authority of staff that's delegated by the board to, work on matters like this and negotiate it. And as so long as if you choose to deny number 2, you would, as it's originally phrased and currently on the table, you're still retaining the authority to be the ultimate decision maker on whether or not, if a first renewal comes back to you,
On approval.
it's approved by you all. I don't think that proposed amendment would clarify things, but I think things could still proceed even if the amendment the amendment has now failed. But we're not limiting ourselves if we don't pass a motion granting negotiation power, because I think that power is already inherent. I think it was a good idea to clarify it, but it's not necessary.
And this does not put us back to the RFP again in 1 year.
Correct.
Thank you. I'm just making sure.
Ms. Golden?
So the last contract was 2019 until now. So how was it handled each year? And, if you could kind of walk us through that, and did the rates change from year to year, from 2019 to now? And if so, how was that handled?
So they did change based off of certain factors. There was increase in payroll. There was also items with our workers' comp in particular was the modifier that we had, depending on how many workers' comp claims that were active, things like that, that it did affect our price. I could not give you the exact detail as to where the item change in price would come from, but I will get back with you on that item and find out.
So because I don't remember them, did they come back to the council every year? So what we're approving tonight would, if number 2 is how it was handled from 2019 to now, is what you're saying?
That's correct.
And so what would cause you to bring it back to us instead of would there be any particular criteria or that you would say this is going to need to come back to the council?
That's an incredible what-if question. So, the question becomes, at what point does administration look at it and say, we're uncomfortable with the direction that this is going? And if it's a point of uncomfortable, it's not necessarily about putting it back in front of you, but also the possibility of going back out on the street for an RFP.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mesa?
Just for the record, Mr. Stopopoulos brought up a good point. I know I don't want us to go back into the bidding process if I don't want insurance to think that we are a problem. So that's just my concern, but I do see all this. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from council? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Horn,
No.
Councilmember Janko, Councilmember Mesa,
Yes.
Councilmember Sutton,
No.
Councilmember Wagner,
No.
Councilmember Golding,
Yes.
Mayor Hoffman.
Yes, motion fails. We have no resolutions thank you both for your work on this very complicated issue, and good luck getting all those binders down here. And can I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Mr. Sutton and Mr. Horn, you can stay. Everyone else, have a great evening. This meeting is adjourned.